Right, well, I don't think that went too bad. This is my life part 2. Done it quicker than I thought I'd make another one, same day. It's still January the 6th, 2015, and the time is now 5 to 4 or 16:55, whichever way you tell the time. I forgot to say, by the way, that my dad, when he left, I guess my sister's sister, my daughter sneezing in the background there, because they're back home. Yeah, not when he left school. When he left the Navy, he became a postman all around the Chelsea area, like, you know. And he was a postman right up until he had to retire medically because he got cancer. Mum, well, she had some cleaning jobs, some factory jobs, but she more or less stayed at home and looked after us, because my dad was like of the old school, like, you know. I mean, you're talking around, as I say, 47, 48, 49, 50, all around there. And they believed then if the wife shouldn't go out to work and they keep them with it. It didn't work, of course. You know, it's like now. I mean, now women is different now, the way they work and that. But I'd forgotten to mention that before. Anyway, said about making number plates. The order would be phoned in to the office, which is where the manager and the 3 girls were. Really next to us, really. They could hear the press working. It wasn't an electric press. It was one. I don't know how to draw it really, but it was. You got the press in the middle, and obviously it came down, and you had the bottom and the top of the letters. You know, press in and press out, and that went right up. It was a massive thing, and at the top you had, how we describe, like two branches, and on top of them were really massive and solid, like, I don't know what it was made of, like cement balls and over the way, and you literally pressed them like that, took them one number plate out, put the next blank in and pressed them like that, and it really kept you fit, your arms, like, you know. And before then you had masking. No, sorry, they brought in the order, like, you know, you might have one number plate, you might have 100 number plates in conclusion, like, right the way through, you know. It was, I think it was in 1964, it was the A registration. So I don't know what it was just before. I think it was just 6 characters, not, you know, like 7. And it's all different now anyway. So we had a lot of them already masked up. You got a roll of masking tape. It was horrible stuff it was to get off later. And the blanks, including the motorbike blanks, that press for the motorbikes was the same, but a smaller version. You literally masked the blank number plate, and you know, got these very stickers, I say, and that went face down in the press, and as you pressed the numbers and the letters out, it pressed through just enough to cut round the edges of the letters and numbers, but not every time. So when you've done that, I mean, you could be doing loads at one go. You put your finger on the number or the letter, and you tore the masking tape off. And in them days, you had a beading round. You had a tiny, well, not tiny, I suppose, smallest sort of spray house, not as big as a radiator one where you sprayed radiators. And you sprayed the number plate, and it went onto another little table by the side of the, well, it was an enclosed like hut spray house. And you had a little, I don't know, like a, well, not a fork, like a little hook. Hook like that you held, that went on to where, say, the character was, and you pulled the masking tape round it with tweezers, and them tweezers, if you didn't do it right, they would scratch the number or the letter, and that would muck it up. And the beading you had round it, you had stuff called mutton cloth that we kept in like a tin of thinners, which is like turps, and you had to wipe that round the bead so it was off. And it was tricky, because if it missed and caught on the paint, you couldn't respray it again. You'd already took the stuff off. That's when I got the bright idea of doing the beading first, like, you know, you could spray it again. And then you put it in to like an oven. It was not like a conveyor belt, it was like two chains and went round and round in a massive oven. And that always had dust in it. If anybody touched it, the dust would come round and ruin all the number plates. You blew all the dust out, sometimes on a Saturday. And that went right the way through the oven to the end, and it got cured like that, the paint. And there'd be one of us on the end, or even the foreman sometimes used to sit in there. And you had like a felt pad, and you polished it because it left a sort of a pallor on it. And you had a made up piece of metal because it was boiling hot, red hot, and you had to balance it and put it onto a rack. It's all precarious. God, health and safety, you have gone mad now. I mean, they had a string of notices all round on the walls about health and safety, but nobody didn't read it. You read it when you first came in there the first day to try and look as though you really meant you wanted the job, and you know, and glad you got it and all the rest of it. You just took the mickey out of it later. Anyway, so that's how you did the number plates. I was there for 4 years altogether. I left when I was 19, and then I went into another. Well, I left because there was factories all over the place in London, and I don't think there's any factories at all now. Nobody makes nothing in the UK. I went into a place called Smith Meters, and they made North Sea gas meters. I've done about in the US, but here you had like electric meters and gas meters. And in them days, you had a sort of a wheel in the middle of the gas meter, and it had dials and things like that, and a slot where you put the money in, and you turned it round, and it went plonk and allowed your gas to come through. And we used to make all the components for that. Well, some were metal, but we made them all out of plastic, out of Bakelite, graphite. Oh, massive great presses. These were heated presses with 3 levers, and you had like 300 degrees heat, whatever it was. You poured the powder into the mould of the component for the gas meters, and you lowered it down, and then you put one lever, you put on, it pressured it up. I can't think, different pressures, 50 tons, 60 tons, something like that, and it would take somewhere like 2 seconds and they were out again. And so I'm just checking the time, it looked dodgy. And they were out again. Some you left in, like, say, like the whole of the outside shell of the meter. I think that was made, not graphite, it was Bakelite. There was sternite as well. Can't remember which done what now. And you leave that in for 10 minutes. In the meantime, you had a file, and you was filing all the edges off, which we called flash. And you had scales on some of them with bags. And you had a big sort of bin of all the powder. God knows how much went down your lungs, because nobody wore masks in them days. You poured it into this bag, and the bag went on the weighing machine, so you knew you had enough to cover for in the mould. Otherwise it come out and what would be called porous. There'd be bits of the component missing, just the end of crumbling bits of powder, which were the remnants of what you'd already put in. So I can't understand what it's doing. 2 different, oh, maybe I'm reading it wrong. So that's how we moulded them out. I stayed there, believe it or not, for 7 years, till I got really fed up with it. By then I was only 21, 2, 3, 4. I was about 26, I think. And I left after that. The next job was, that's when I entered into the NHS, the health service, as a hospital porter. I did 5 big hospitals in 15 years. Whole new ball game, you know, nothing like factory work. My mate said when I went to interview, because he became my mate after, he said, you can't turn off patients like you can machines and go home at 5 o'clock. You know, you'd have somebody dead, or you'd have people coming in, visitors. You had to operate the telephone on a late shift. It was a totally different environment that I knew. It's strange the way that clock's going. Anyway, so that worked out pretty fine. But by then, like, you know, I had a couple of girlfriends, and my sister, she and her mate had a horse. Still lived in Streatham. I'd had the odd girlfriend, but nothing really serious like. So it was in the second, because the first hospital I worked at when I first started was near Crystal Palace in South London. It was called Norwood Cottage Hospital. Last time I saw it, it boarded up. But I've been told since it's opened up, it was like a big house again, just like the Cirque Radiators. There was only me and Henry Griffin, he'd been there 20 years, and an old age pensioner. He used to come in now and again. He'd be about the same age as me now, and just as forgetful. And we worked a sister on one off or a long weekend, so he'd come in the afternoon sometimes if one of us went home in the morning on a shift, and he'd do it. He'd only like sweep up and stuff. He wasn't allowed to lift or go to the patients like the rest of, like we did, you know. But that was useful. You know, I learnt the ropes of being a hospital porter. Later I went to bigger hospitals, but I'll go into that at another time. Where did I go from there? I was only at Norwood Hospital for a couple of years, and then I went to Landor Lining Hospital, which was where all the main ambulances were, as well as being a hospital. And that's where I met my first wife. And that was totally different than what I expected. Then I went to a big place like King's, and it's still there in Denmark Hill. But I'll go into that. I think my sister had got married by then. She was married before I was, because I didn't get married until I was 31. So it was working out all right, you know. I was enjoying the whole service, but I'm diabetic, and I knew I was diabetic, but it hadn't sort of taken over me like now, like insulin, and I was gradually getting tired and tired of pushing trolleys and patients from different wards and lifting them out of bed, and my stamina was going, and I had to leave. And that's when I left, and got a job for another 7 years at the Natural History Museum in London, in South Kensington, where all the dinosaurs and God knows what are there, you know. Been back a few times. I still miss it. It's another place where I dream that I've come back, and I can't believe it. And I said I've dreamt so many times, and I wake up disappointed again. Anyway, I'm going to upload this one now. I don't know if it's any worse than the one I've done before, but this is part 2, as I say. So let's have a go at this one now. See you at a later date.